Today is April 17th, about 12:30 Miami time, and I am here with Saskia Sassen. Sassen, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm delighted to be part of this.
So, as everyone else, we are all home now, but could you describe a little bit about where you are exactly and maybe how the recent pandemic has changed, if any, the structure of your life and work?
Well, actually, in many ways, no. You know, we academics, you know what that is like. I take out my work no matter where I am. You know, if I'm delayed with a plane or whatever. So this in a way is the same, you know, because mostly the day is spent writing, day after day after day. The subject does change a bit. And we have this lovely terrace here, which also allows us to garden. We have many trees on our terrace. And so, you know, we are amazed at how gentle and pleasant this has been. And I have rarely seen such great weather day after day after day. Today is the first gray day. We have had 20 days of just stunning weather, and there are no cars, so the air is clean. You know, it's somehow, at least for me, it has not at all been a burden.
Yeah, I guess we're privileged to be able to do the work that we do from home.
I know, exactly.
We are not on the front lines of this, but so I think we're very fortunate in that regard. But I guess as you write and reflect and think about this in light of also your prolific writings, I wonder if you've had any thoughts about how this recent pandemic may impact our built environment, the future design of our cities, if any.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is astounding is this invisible force. We don't see it, right? I mean, we just don't see it. We can't see it. And its forcefulness is such that in total silence, it alters our daily life. You know, whether it's for good or for bad is another matter. So it for me, this kind of, you know, I grew up in Latin America where we often had very difficult situations. You know, I remember the first time where I was like 8 years old in Buenos Aires, and I was standing by a window in a city area, very lovely, beautiful city area, really beautiful, the best area of the city of Buenos Aires. And I heard this thing inside my body, and a second later it was a bomb exploding. But I felt it first in my body, and then it was a matter of seconds. You know, one has sort of experiences which put you in a very particular place vis-a-vis what we don't see, what we don't know. And also Latin America, you know, Buenos Aires went through terrible regimes. You may be aware of that. I mean, really brutal. And so one across life, no matter how good one's life is, there is always that second vector of how it could have been, how it has been for so many people. You know, I can't get that kind of, I mean, I'm a very happy person, you know, I'm very practical Dutch, you know, I don't dramatize too much anything. But I must say, growing up in Latin America till I was 17, from age 2 to 17, so that's a very significant. And that was a time when Buenos Aires was under absolutely disastrous, you know, commanders, and it was really bad. And so I now, so privileged, you know, we never have an issue, everything works in London or at my Columbia University in New York. I'm just so glad that I had that experience, because it just means like you also see this other world. No matter where I am, I will never forget my 17 years, or well, actually 15 years, because I arrived there when I was 2, in Buenos Aires. I will never forget that. And it sort of, it is this other world that I need to know. It was Buenos Aires at its worst, and not the beautiful city, but it was the violence, the extraordinary violence. And so anyhow, that to me those are shaping experiences, which means that this, here, what we're living now, 20 days of, supposedly we wear masks. It has no drama. It simply has no drama. I take it very seriously. But compared to what I have experienced, and then I have done other stuff, that it's impossible to mention it all, but when I was doing research, when I was a young researcher and I went to Colombia, which was a very, very wild area, and I also worked in Central America, man, I've had so many experiences where it's in your face violence, that this virus, invisible but very powerful, it's like, I don't know, it's an invitation to think. It's not an aggressor, though it is an aggressor, but it does not know that it is an aggressor. But it is like it's an invitation to think for me. I've done so many, I must have done about 50 interviews, because I deal with people from many different parts of the world. And so I immersed myself in the subject of this virus. And it's been quite interesting in its own way. I wear a mask whenever I leave the house. I don't have to because I don't, but I think it's out of respect to the people, and to the virus. Mm. But that's also the Latin American in me, that nature is there and you cannot overlook it. It appears every now and then in particular, but it has been a kind of adventure in this beautiful place where we are, where there's zero risk, really. But anyhow, so that's been my experience.
In hearing you speak, I realize you're making the comparison to perhaps other moments of crises, which have to do with violence and war and displacement, which of course characterizes the period of time and still today in many parts of the world.
Yeah.
And so within that context, one sees this through a different lens. And again, there are many individuals who are out and in much more vulnerable situations. We have the invisible health crisis, as you point out, which is actually invisible, the virus itself, but it leads to economic uncertainty for many, which then causes other, and I wondered, you're responsible for coining the term global city, and now this virus is really exposing maybe the vulnerabilities of the networks that create the global city.
Yeah.
So,
right.
In your mind, have you thought or reconsidered or wondered what this will mean vis-a-vis these global networks that define us?
Well, I think there are two vectors in play here that are quite different. One of them is that they become even stronger because they have capabilities. They can connect with the world. That doesn't mean the whole city. It means particular actors. So you stand back and you say, wow, so we have two worlds of extraordinary, global connectivity. One is the virus, which is a very impressive virus, it's everywhere. You stand back and you say, wow, and then we have these very other powerful actors. And so I'm trying to write something that is a bit poetic, a bit like it could be a fiction, where I have two actors who are both global. And of course, most people are not. I'm not myself as a person. I can inhabit and enter circuits that are global, circuitos, but I myself am mostly sitting at a table in one place, or maybe, we have two houses, that's it. I go to give talks, sure, but, And so to begin to understand what are these other dimensions that are constitutive of our reality, but that we either never have picked up on because they were maybe dormant or because we don't think about it. And on the other hand, then, sort of one begins to see there are these other actors. But I want to really, for me, it's very important to emphasize that there is a virus, but there's also all the global business transactions. There are the migrants, the refugees. There are all kinds of, these transversal dimensions where people that we don't know, we don't see, many of them we never hear about. And so that, why not also this virus? You know, I mean, it's like something that, because, you know, I think we have such viruses all the time. They just are not, they don't interact with us. This one interacts with us. This one can affect us. It's killing people. But, you know, we have viruses all the time. And so one has to, I think, put it in proportion, you know, this virus. Because it's not like, we have to eliminate viruses. Hell no, we need, most of the viruses around are probably doing a job for us, you know, the combinations of. And so how do you deal with the killer virus? You know, because that in a way is what it is. It doesn't know that it is that, but it is that. And so, but of course we have all had experiences in our lives where we're dealing with a killer. Whether that doesn't necessarily mean that kills us, but, you know, somebody who is truly a negative actor. We have a long list of people with power who are basically extractive. You know, that is for me a very important category. So the guy who runs Amazon, or who invented Amazon, that guy is extractive. He's extractive. He's far more dangerous than the virus in many ways. You know, he just has ruined many people's bodies by the abuse of the way he wants workers to work. You know, many workers in his companies, you know, they have to retire because their bodies are broken. Jesus, that is much worse than this virus, who's also a killer. You know, and so because he's just one example, you know, there are many enterprises that are literally destroying the bodies of their workers. The Latinos who have to pick up our, you know, our vegetables and all of that. I mean, we have a lot of evidence on that, right? They're destroyed. Their backs are destroyed, and they inhale all these chemicals. Their lungs are destroyed. So we are surrounded by this. What is interesting here is that, unlike the farmers who are killing themselves, you know, in the fields, etc., the virus is a drama queen. This virus is a drama queen.
You mean in search for attention when you say?
No, but it inevitably catches our attention, you know? And it navigates, I don't know how it dies. I don't know that. But it navigates. So I am so inclined, whenever people, I've done quite a few interviews on this, whenever people start talking about this virus, it's dangerous, I bring up these kinds of issues. Say, you know, I don't know who's more dangerous. I think we humans, the way we have handled things, we might be far more dangerous than that virus, which doesn't even know that it is hurting us. You know, whereas those employers of those workers, they know what is happening. Now, do we want to talk something that is closer to your work?
Actually, I think that really the point of these conversations is to garner your initial impressions and thoughts. And I think what I understand from your comments is you're placing the virus, which is now a kind of new evil, if you will, or a new harasser, within a larger context of things that may in the long run, in fact, be far more dangerous than the virus itself. And perhaps we shouldn't take our eyes or our focus away from some of these topics that you were mentioning earlier, to maybe focus all our attention on something that in the long run may in fact be far less detrimental to us as a society than some of the things that you pointed out.
Exactly, you got it, right.
Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to speak with me today, and I'm very grateful and hope that we can continue the conversation and that you remain safe and well.
Yes, thank you very much. Bye-bye.